Husband's former best friend became his best man, but during his wedding speech he insulted me as naive and only loving my husband because he was my first, so I took the mic and exposed that he had HIV, which made his fiancée threw her ring at him and left. To start with, Nate is my husband and Tom is his best friend. I first met Nate during our college years. He was 2 years older than me, and we crossed paths at a college party. At the time, Nate and his friend Tom were quite infamous on campus. They had garnered a reputation as playboys, the kind of guys you'd hear whispers about in hallways and dorm rooms for girls to avoid. My friends were very clear in their warnings to steer clear of them, and I intended to follow that advice. In fact, I was consciously avoiding Nate and Tom at that party, making a point to keep my distance. But then Nate approached me. He had a natural charisma that was hard to ignore. He wasn't just smooth talking, he was also kind and genuinely interested in getting to know me. There was something in the way he spoke and carried himself that made him stand out from the persona I'd been warned about. Despite my reservations, I was quite charmed by him but didn't take things forward after that party as I wasn't sure. Nate, however, didn't give up. For days, he kept finding ways to cross paths with me or strike up a conversation, always with that same warm and eager demeanor. Eventually, I found myself softening toward him. Against my initial judgment, I agreed to go on a single date with him, fully expecting it to be nothing more than a casual, one-time meeting. To my surprise, Nate exceeded every expectation I had. He was very honest with me throughout our date. He was upfront about the reputation he had in our college, addressing it without defensiveness. It was refreshing and showed a side of him I hadn't anticipated, a mature, self-aware, and thoughtful side. After that date, we started meeting up more often, spending time together and truly getting to know each other. As the days turned into weeks, our bond grew deeper, and I began to see the real Nate. He was more than what people talked about him, and I slowly started to like him. Throughout this budding relationship, Nate's best friend and roommate, Tom, made it clear that he disliked me. Both men shared an apartment during college, splitting rent and spending a lot of time together, so naturally, I saw Tom frequently whenever I went over to visit Nate. From the very beginning, Tom made it clear that he wasn't particularly thrilled about my presence in Nate's life. He never outright said it, but his actions and words spoke volumes. Whenever Nate and I were together, Tom would scoff, rolling his eyes dramatically or making offhanded comments about how Nate was getting boring for spending too much time with just one woman. To him, it was unthinkable that his once carefree, fun-loving friend was now devoting so much of his time and attention to just me. When Nate was out of earshot, Tom would sometimes taunt me, almost gleefully, predicting that Nate would eventually get tired of me as he usually does with other women. According to Tom, it was only a matter of time before Nate would lose his sudden interest in me and move on to the next girl, as he always did. However, that never happened. Nate and I got more and more serious, and I could tell that Tom wasn't just surprised, he was unsettled by this. When we officially became a couple, Tom's teasing escalated into outright hostility. I vividly remember one argument in particular that left me both shocked and hurt. Tom confronted Nate, questioning his choice to be with someone like me. He sneered, pointing out that I wasn't beautiful or even a blonde, insinuating that I was somehow not worthy enough to be Nate's girlfriend. It was a cruel jab, one that was clearly meant to undermine me. I am glad that Tom attacked me so openly because it made Nate see for the first time just how much his best friend disliked me. Thankfully, Nate didn't stand for it. Nate yelled at Tom for saying those things about me and forbade Tom from ever speaking about me that way again. Nate made it clear that he wouldn't tolerate any disrespect toward me. It was a relief to see Nate stand up for me. Rather than backing off, Tom doubled down. He insisted that he knew Nate better than anyone else and, based on their years of friendship, he was confident that I wasn't the right kind of woman for Nate. After this, Nate and Tom had a heated yelling match. Nate demanded that his friend apologize to me, but Tom stubbornly refused, escalating the tension between them. It was only after that incident that Nate and I began to distance ourselves from Tom as much as possible. Nate was deeply upset by the way Tom had spoken about me and his unwillingness to respect our relationship. For me, I was really happy that Tom had exposed himself and that Nate was supporting me. The way Nate stood up for me only reinforced my feelings for him. It was clear that he wasn't willing to let anyone, even his closest friend, undermine what we had built together. When the time came for Nate and Tom to renew their rent agreement, Nate chose not to continue living with Tom. Instead, he and I decided to take the next step in our relationship and look for a place to live together. This decision infuriated Tom further, who took it as a personal betrayal. That manchild was so furious at me one day on campus when he confronted me in a fit of rage. He screamed at me in front of everyone, accusing me of being the reason Nate wasn't renewing the lease with him. He claimed that I was the one who had come between them, breaking up their friendship. I wasn't one to back down from such baseless accusations, especially given how melodramatic and unreasonable he was being. I stood my ground and told Tom firmly that he needed to stop overreacting. Nate and I had made a mutual decision to move forward in our relationship, and it wasn't about him. I told Tom plainly that if he had a problem with it, he should take it up with Nate instead of lashing out at me. Later, when Nate found out about this confrontation, he was furious with his friend. He confronted Tom directly, yelling at him and laying down clear boundaries. Nate warned Tom in no uncertain terms to stay away from me and to never speak to me like that again. As planned, Nate and I did end up moving in together, starting a new chapter in our lives. With that, we made a conscious decision to basically cut off Tom from our lives. It was a difficult choice for Nate, given their history as friends, but it was necessary for the health of our relationship. After college, Nate and I moved to a different city for our jobs. Our relationship has continued to thrive, and we have been happy with each other. 3 months ago, Nate proposed to me, and obviously, I said yes. He is my soulmate. All our friends and family are very happy for us. It was during this busy but happy time that Tom unexpectedly resurfaced. You see, Tom reached out to Nate through Facebook, wanting to reconnect. It turned out that he had also moved to the same city where we now lived. Tom wanted to meet up with Nate after all these years and get to know him again. When Nate told me about Tom reaching out, I was a bit surprised, but I wasn't completely against it. Given how much time had passed since the old drama during our college years, I didn't see a problem with them meeting up. After all, some people do change, and I trusted Nate's judgment to handle the situation maturely. After their meeting, Nate came back home to tell me that Tom had appeared much calmer and more grounded than he had been back in college. What's more, Tom seemed genuinely interested in catching up on Nate's life and even learning more about our relationship. He had even been apologetic to Nate about all the times he had demeaned me during college, which caught me off guard. I hadn't expected such sincerity from Tom, and it made me relieved that he had grown up. Tom had also mentioned to Nate that he was currently engaged to his fiancée, Georgia, and they were also in the midst of planning their own wedding. I was genuinely happy for Tom and relieved to hear that he seemed to be in a good place. Over the next few weeks, Nate and Tom continued to spend several weekends together playing golf and rekindling their old friendship. Nate spoke warmly about their conversations. Unfortunately, my own schedule has been incredibly hectic. Between work responsibilities and the endless details involved in wedding planning, I simply hadn't had any time to meet Tom in person yet. But I had spoken to him briefly over the phone a few times. He was polite and friendly during those conversations, and though I was initially cautious, his demeanor suggested he had indeed matured. Today me and Nate were discussing the wedding and he surprised me by asking if he can make Tom his best man. Up until this point, Nate hadn't finalized who he wanted for the role, and I know how close he and Tom once were. It's clear that this decision means a lot to Nate, especially with how they've reconnected over the past few weeks. Although I want to say yes, I can't shake a sense of unease about the possibility. I recognize that people change, and from everything Nate has told me, it seems like Tom has grown since our college days. On the surface, I should probably feel okay about this decision. However, I can't help but be reminded of the history between us, the things Tom said, and did that hurt me deeply back then? He didn't approve of me back then, and while he seems polite now, a part of me wonders if those old sentiments have truly disappeared. At the same time, I know how much Nate values his friendship with Tom. They shared so much of their lives together during college, and reconnecting now seems to have brought Nate a lot of happiness. I don't want to be the person who stands in the way of that or who tells Nate he shouldn't have his best friend by his side on such an important day. If I were to express my discomfort and ask Nate not to make Tom his best man, I know Nate would absolutely listen to me. That's the kind of person he is, caring, thoughtful, and always willing to prioritize my feelings. I have no doubt that he would respect my wishes without a second thought, simply because he loves me and wants me to feel secure. But I don't want to be the woman who prevents my partner from making a choice that is meaningful to them. I don't want to come across as controlling or as though I'm holding on to old grudges from the past. After all, our wedding is a celebration of love, growth, and new beginnings, and I don't want any lingering negativity from the past. Yet, there's still a small voice inside me that keeps telling me to be careful. I feel caught between wanting to support Nate's happiness and grappling with my own unresolved feelings about Tom. So, Reddit Ida, if I refuse Tom to be part of our wedding celebration? Or am I overthinking this? Update 1. I have read all of your comments and I agree that Tom might still have unresolved feelings with me, but he does miss his best friend, Nate, which is why he reached out after so long. So, I have made the decision to let Nate invite Tom to be his best man. After thinking it through, I realized how much this means to my partner. Seeing Nate genuinely happy about reconnecting with his college best friend has made me understand that this is something deeply important to him. I don't want to dampen that happiness or make things unnecessarily complicated, especially during a time that's supposed to be joyful and celebratory for both of us. Throughout our relationship, Nate has always shown me love, respect, and unwavering support. He stood up for me in the past, even when it meant confronting Tom and setting clear boundaries. That gives me confidence now to trust his judgment and his choice. I know that Nate hasn't made this decision lightly, so if he feels that Tom deserves this role at our wedding, then I'm willing to support that. More importantly, I see this as an opportunity, a chance for all of us to finally move on from the past. Weddings are a time for love and forgiveness. I hope this can be a turning point. Maybe Tom and I can use this moment to rebuild a cordial relationship, if not a true friendship. I hope everything works out. Update 2. This week me and Nate got married and I finally got to meet Tom and his fiancée, Georgia. Just a warning, things didn't go exactly as planned. You see, initially during the wedding, Tom seemed polite and cordial towards me. His fiancée was bubbling with excitement about her own wedding plans. It was during the reception when the real trouble began. As the drinks flowed and everyone began to loosen up, the atmosphere was festive. Nate and I were having an incredible time, reveling in the spotlight. This is when Tom got up to deliver his best man speech. I was prepared for the usual mix of humor, sentiment, and heartfelt moments. At first, that's exactly what it was. Tom talked about his long-standing friendship with Nate, recounting their college days and the bond they had shared over the years. He was slurring a bit, which was understandable given the amount of drinking everyone had been doing, but his words were still coherent. However, things took a sudden and unexpected turn when he brought me into his speech. At first, I thought he might say something sweet or lighthearted about how I had become part of Nate's life. Instead, he launched into a bizarre and inappropriate commentary about me. Tom described me as naive when I first joined college, emphasizing how I had no experience in the dating department. This was true, so I awkwardly laughed, even though it was embarrassing. But then, to my shock, he brought up how I was a virgin back then and insinuated that I only fell in love with Nate because he was the first person who ever touched me. Hearing those words, I felt a lump rise in my throat. Beside me, Nate's expression mirrored my own horror. This wasn't the heartfelt or funny anecdote we had expected. It was a targeted, degrading commentary on me, right in the middle of one of the most important moments of our lives. Yes, it was true that before Nate, I hadn't seriously dated anyone, and I had little experience in relationships. But what did that have to do with anything? Why bring this up now, in such a cruel and dismissive way? The part that truly stung was when Tom went on to say in his speech that Nate was the best I could ever do, implying that I had clung to him out of desperation since I had no other options. He said it as though it were a joke, as though we were all supposed to laugh along with him. But no one did. Instead, there was an awkward silence in the room, with many guests exchanging uncomfortable glances. I saw the fury in my husband's eyes as he stood up abruptly, marched over to Tom, and snatched the microphone out of his hand. He yelled at Tom for being so inappropriate. There was no hesitation in his movements. He wasn't going to let this continue for another second. Tom, however, remained unfazed. He looked at Nate and gave a casual shrug, as if he genuinely couldn't understand what the problem was. Then, as if to twist the knife further, he turned his gaze toward me and smirked. "Well," he said, his tone dripping with arrogance, "it's not like I spoke any lies." At that moment I realized that his words meant to humiliate me, to make me feel small and unworthy, and his smug demeanor made it all the more infuriating. It was crystal clear to me that Tom had done this on purpose. He wasn't just being thoughtless or drunk. He had gone out of his way to knowingly bring up these things about me from the past and frame them in the most demeaning way possible. Why else would he smirk at me like that, fully aware of how uncomfortable I was? However, I am not someone to be messed with. This was supposed to be our day, and I wasn't going to let someone like Tom ruin it for us. This man-child needed to be taught a lesson. He needed to be put in his place, for once and for all. With a smile, I took the microphone from Nate's hand. Nate looked at me, surprise flashing in his eyes, but he didn't stop me. I stood up from my seat and turned to face Tom, who, for a brief moment, seemed pleased with himself, as though he had won some twisted victory. "Well, Tom," I began, my voice steady and controlled, "I have to admit, I'm surprised you mentioned our college days. You seem to have such vivid memories of me, but I have some pretty interesting memories of you too." Tom's grin faltered slightly, but he tried to play it cool. His smirk remained on his face, but I could see the slight unease creeping into his eyes as I continued. "You know," I went on, "what I remember most about you back in college wasn't your great friendship with Nate. It was how you let every other girl use you and drop you like a used tissue." I paused, letting that sink in. Tom's face shifted, the confidence slipping away as the room around us grew tense. I wasn't done yet. Turning to face the rest of the room, I let the words come out in a slow, deliberate tone. In fact, I even remember how Tom once got HIV after sleeping with a prostitute. I remember how people found out about this and women started avoiding him in college after that. The room fell dead silent. I could hear a few gasps, some whispers, and the shifting of uncomfortable glances. I turned back to Tom and smiled sweetly. It's honestly shocking to me that you even have a fiancée now, after everything that went down. I gave a dramatic pause and added, well, good luck to her, I guess. At this point, Tom's face turned bright red, the color draining from his smug expression. He sat there wide-eyed, his mouth opening and closing as if he were trying to find the words, but nothing came out. His fiancée, sitting next to him, looked absolutely stunned. She turned to Tom, her eyes searching his face for any sign that this was some kind of joke. Tom, she asked, her voice trembling as she turned to him. Is this true? Her gaze was fixed on him, filled with disbelief. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, processing what she had just learned, as the weight of the situation settled in. Tom looked like he wished the ground could swallow him whole. His face was a deep shade of crimson, and I could see the panic beginning to set in. He wasn't expecting me to reveal his deepest, darkest secret. All the cockiness, all the smugness, everything that had defined him up until this moment, seemed to have evaporated. He was speechless, unable to respond, his gaze flicking between me, his fiancée, and the guests who were watching this train wreck unfold. For the first time, Tom had to face the consequences of his actions, not just the words he had said, but the person he truly was. As his fiancée looked at him, clearly struggling to come to terms with the revelations, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Tom had crossed a line, and I wanted to make sure that everyone knew exactly who he was. He might have thought he could humiliate me, but in the end, it was he who was left humiliated. Eventually, Tom had no choice but to admit that everything I had spoken about him was true. Hearing this confession, his fiancée, Georgia, erupted in anger. She screamed at him, her face twisted in disbelief and fury. Without a moment's hesitation, she threw her glass of champagne directly at Tom's face. You lied to me, she shouted, tears welling up in her eyes. You have HIV and never even told me. How dare you? How could you hide this from me? Tom, looking like a deer caught in headlights, scrambled to explain himself. He blurted out that he had been on continuous medication for years and that his HIV was undetectable, trying to reassure her that she had nothing to worry about. That he just couldn't admit the truth to her as he was afraid of losing her. He begged her to calm down so they could talk about this later, but Georgia wasn't having it. She didn't believe a word he was saying. The damage had been done, and there was no going back from this. Georgia ripped off her engagement ring and threw it straight at his face, the diamond glinting in the air before it struck him. I hate you. You are a liar and I don't believe you anymore, she spat, her voice shaking. This is over. I'm done. Without another word, she stormed out of the reception, leaving Tom standing there, utterly humiliated. The room fell into a stunned silence. Tom did follow her out, calling out to her as he ran after her. He was begging for forgiveness, but it was too late. The damage he had done to both Georgia and his reputation was beyond repair. Watching this unfold, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of justice. Tom had tried to humiliate me in front of everyone, but in the end, it was him who ended up being exposed and destroyed. After this, I braced myself for backlash. I fully expected some of the guests in my wedding, and maybe even Nate, to be upset with me for what I had done. After all, I had knowingly exposed Tom, but only because he had tried to mess with me first. Much to my surprise, everyone was incredibly kind and understanding. People approached me after the scene, expressing their support and understanding. They could see why I had needed to stand up for myself. No one seemed angry at me for putting the truth out there. Even Nate supported me. He pulled me aside, apologizing for ever inviting Tom to the wedding in the first place. He told me how sorry he was that I had to go through all of that, especially on our big day, just because of his stupid decision to invite Tom as his best man. He assured me, with complete sincerity, that he would never let Tom into our lives again after what had just happened. I could see the genuine concern in his eyes. As much as I appreciated his support, I couldn't help but feel bad for my husband. Nate is such a nice guy, and he always sees the good in people, even when they don't deserve it. It was heartbreaking to see him betrayed by someone he had considered a close friend, someone he had trusted for years. It pained him to see his old friend act in such a disgraceful way. Still, I am grateful for Nate's unwavering support and understanding. He has made it clear that our life together is his top priority and that we will be moving forward without any more drama from Tom. In the end, I know that standing up for myself was the right thing to do, no matter how messy or dramatic my wedding became. It wasn't just about exposing Tom, it was about reclaiming my dignity and taking control of my own story. I wasn't going to let anyone, especially him, make me feel small or humiliated anymore. And with Nate by my side, I know I have someone who will always have my back, no matter what. Update 3. First off, I want to acknowledge that I understand why some people are saying what Tom did could be considered criminal, especially when it comes to the lack of disclosure about his HIV status to his fiancée. In many places, there are legal requirements around disclosing such information in relationships, and if Georgia decides to pursue it, I fully support her right to hold Tom accountable for his actions. He betrayed her trust in the most unimaginable way, and I sincerely hope she gets the justice and peace of mind she deserves. As for those who feel I knowingly exposed Tom out of malice, I want to make it clear that wasn't my intention. Yes, I wanted to get back at him for mocking me at our wedding, especially for calling me a virgin and belittling me in front of our guests. But I had no idea that Tom had really been hiding such a serious secret from his fiancée. I thought at the most he would be embarrassed in front of the guests, but I had no idea that he had been dishonest with his partner as well. After everything Tom has done to me, I was simply standing up for myself after years of him treating me like trash. The fact that he was lying to Georgia is something I could never have predicted, and I can't help but feel a strange sense of relief that she now knows exactly who she's dealing with. In a way, maybe this was the universe's way of helping Georgia. She deserves to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As much as I never wanted to hurt anyone, I couldn't let Tom's actions go unchecked. I had to defend myself, and if this ended up being the catalyst for Georgia finding out what kind of man Tom really is, then maybe it was all for the best. Now, as for Nate, I want to take a moment to address the criticism directed at him. He feels terrible about inviting Tom to our wedding, and he's read through all the comments. He agrees that it was his mistake, but please understand that he had no idea what Tom was capable of. Tom acted all nice and friendly in front of Nate, just to get close enough to humiliate me later. Nate genuinely believed that their years of friendship would mean Tom would act respectfully at the wedding. He never could have anticipated that Tom would behave in such a vile, disgusting manner. So, please don't crucify my husband. He didn't deserve to be dragged into this mess. Also, for those asking me to get an HIV test just in case my husband is hiding something from me, please rest assured that he isn't like Tom. Both of us go for regular health checkups, and unlike Tom, he's never slept with any questionable women, so, no, he doesn't have any STD. Now, for everyone asking me what the real reason behind Tom's hatred for me is, I honestly don't know. He's just never liked me. My guess is that he wanted to keep his bond with Nate tight throughout college, but once I showed up, Nate started spending a lot of time with me instead. But I never did anything to Tom. I never tried to steal Nate away from him, and I certainly never treated him poorly. Tom's animosity toward me has always been so weird, and honestly, I'll never fully get it. Right now, Nate and I are on our honeymoon, trying to enjoy the peace and quiet after all the drama. We've decided to put all of this behind us and focus on the life we're building together. I'm done with Tom, and I don't want to talk about him anymore. I've done what I needed to do, and I don't regret my decision. Now, I'm looking forward to building a future with the man I love.